fact, our agenda that we will follow in the swaying of the skeptic will be looking at what primary groups in life are, looking at what secondary groups are, ethical considerations that play into all groups, the evolution of group communication, and conclude with how small groups are the building blocks of an entire community. You know, someone might say, when did I ever enter a group? But the fact of the matter is, entry into this world means entry into a group of some sort. Well, not all families are created equal, of course. Each human born will have some constructs and some relationships that will constitute this definition of their family. As a matter of fact, in the textbook by Adams and Gaines, the first group you encounter is your family, and in many ways, this group forms the foundation for all other groups that follow. To the skeptic, I'd say you started in a group. It was part of your initial family dynamic. And psychologist William Schultz says that there are three major forces that motivate human interaction. These major forces that motivate human interaction are inclusion, openness, and control. If you subdivide them according to Adam and Gaines, groups that form to cover inclusion and openness would constitute what primary groups are. And the concept of primary groups began really as a concept and a discussion construct in 1909 by a sociologist named Charles Gould. He introduced this concept and he talked about how these primary groups, groups that are designed to address inclusion and openness, played an important role in the development of personal identity. The fact of who you are comes from your involvement in these primary groups, things like your family. Membership in the group or connection to the group is primarily based on association. You're around the people, or you have something in common. You go to the same place, or you're born into the same family. Trademarks of the group are close personal relationships, and that they last for a long time. They have an enduring time frame. A primary group is typically a small social group whose members share close, personal, enduring relationships. That's from Boundless.com. And the examples then that probably would come to mind, we talked about a family, also close friends would share these types of relationships that are enduring and ongoing over the course of time. And so to emphasize the enduring pattern of communications, if you take from the formative experiences of your youth, and again, thinking of someone who is skeptical and why should they study group? Large degree, their school associates that they were with over a number of years. The communication pathways you learn in your first group likely affect your communication in groups now, says Adams and Gaines. So that's what primary groups do. They address inclusion and openness, and they form the foundational attributes and constructs of life, and they shape us and launch us into how we interact with other people. But if you think about it, we don't just interact with family, we don't just interact with friends in informal social constructs. We also interact in different ways and address the other motivation that William Schultz identified. And so now what I'd like to do is invite my colleague Tate to address the concept of secondary groups.
With the importance and necessity of belonging to primary groups firmly established, the next step in understanding how groups are the heart of society is to examine the role of secondary groups. Considering that primary groups serve as the roots or foundation of our personal development, secondary groups act as building blocks on our path to personal growth. This growth is evident not only at the individual level, but also in the formation of our society. Secondary groups satisfy the human need for connectedness and belonging. These groups can take many forms, including church groups, school groups, groups formed through employment, support groups, and social or leisure groups. Membership in some of these groups is voluntary, while membership in others is required for various reasons. Whichever form the group takes and however membership is obtained, belonging to a group of some type is unavoidable. A key component of any group lies in the reciprocal nature of group interactions. Each individual in a group will influence the group as a whole, as well as other individual members. Group cohesiveness can help individuals develop trust in those around them, which leads to better interpersonal skills. These skills benefit the personal growth of individuals and will ultimately lead to improved group contributions and higher levels of personal satisfaction. While meeting the needs of connectedness to others and providing a sense of belonging, groups also work to meet many other needs. Many secondary groups act as a source of affection, while some others act as support systems. Groups may meet one need at a time based on the type of group and the needs of the individual. However, it is quite often the case that a group will meet several of these needs simultaneously. In many instances, groups will be better able to solve problems in an effective manner than an individual would be alone. This is yet another need that is met and another skill that is developed individually through participation in groups. Groups provide individuals with unique opportunities of learning by allowing them to learn from personal interactions and observations. Participation in groups provides valuable experiences in learning how to cooperate, communicate, and behave in a variety of settings. The ethics learned through group interactions will carry over to every area of an individual's life, helping to guide their behaviors and set standards for themselves as well as others. The lessons, guidance, and support gained from group participation combine to act as building blocks for individuals, who in turn act as building blocks for the society in which we live.
Hello, my name is Dawn Moore, and I'm here to discuss ethics in small groups. This is a very important part of the dynamics to work together for the good of society. Egalitarian ethics is based on equality of all people, thus working in a group setting and implementing good ethical practices allows the group to move forward in a positive direction. Furthermore, a famous saying, and I quote, "The heart has its reasons that the reason knows not." Therefore, ethics comes from reasoning and moral duties that small groups, as the heart of society, is constantly taking place throughout our world. For example, people that volunteer at soup kitchens for the hungry seem to do it out of moral reasons and a duty to help others. However, unethical behavior in a small group can have a negative impact. For example, social loafers, people that are insensitive to others, the know-it-alls, and of course the bullies of society, are the problems that face the small groups, and how the groups interact with one another is determination of the group's success or failure. Unethical behavior is non-acceptable. Thus, small groups should implement a contract that focuses on ethics and the knowledge of intolerance for unethical behavior. Identifying the problems of unethical behavior in small groups would be implemented through observation and continuous evaluation. In addition, when the group shows a lack of interest or they're uncomfortable around some of the group members and the group's goals are not being met, the small group could be suffering from an unethical behavior. Implementing a solution to unethical behavior is vitally important to continue to improve and work together as a team. There are several ways to do this, such as coaching one another or offering feedback. And of course, you have to do this through respect and being sensitive to others. In addition, Monitor individuals and their behaviors within the group, and be committed to working as a team. Therefore, harmonize and encourage positive behavior. When making sound ethical decisions within a small group, several factors must take place. For example, treat others as you'd want to be treated, and the task that must be completed will be a success. Furthermore, the importance of small groups in society is similar to our blood that must pump to our heart for life to continue. Many small groups, such as people who feed the hungry, volunteering for the elderly, or helping in the hospitals, are some of the ways that small groups are the heart of society. And from an ethical standpoint, moral duties for small groups are the reason why they are the heart of society.
And my baby.
Thank you.
You called her Frank. She's trying to do something.
Okay.
For the purposes of support and procreation, people, since the dawn of man, have needed to consort with other people in order to sustain the species. Whether we study group dynamics or not, it must be acknowledged that groups have formed our human history. Without them, we would cease to exist. In the beginning, the group was family, which grew into extended family, and then into tribes, etc. Throughout history, these groups, with the introduction of trade or commerce, have needed to evolve and form webs of communication between other groups. This pattern continues, with groups becoming greater in number as the population grows and becomes ever more connected. Commerce and increasing population have become much more complex over time, requiring humans to study the best way to work effectively in a group. It is this steady expansion that has fueled the evolution of language and communication as well. For the sake of peace and prosperity, we must always be looking for and adopting better ways to work together, hence the study of group dynamics. With the more recent introduction of technology, groups have been able to more effectively communicate than at any other point in human history. Consider it. 1,000 years ago, Native Americans and Europeans didn't know the other existed. 500 years ago, communications traveled via letters on carriages or ships across oceans. Today, I can pick up my phone and text my friend in Somalia, and he gets it almost immediately. Groups are able to work more efficiently together with the use of technology. What would have taken a significant amount of time an age ago now takes no time at all. This fuels societal progress of communication in groups, and the progress of business by decreasing the amount of resources that go to communication.
I had a teacher that once told me the most important question in the world was made up of just 2 words. So what? You know, group dynamics are not something that we think about every day. So to dedicate a whole course to learning about them, it may leave you with that very same question. So what? Why do we need to learn more about group dynamics? As we've learned today, the so what of group dynamics flows out of the very nature of where groups exist in our lives and how we operate within those groups. It starts with the reality that groups are, they're inescapable. The famed poet John Donne penned these words: "No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main." In essence, we are born into a family group, we're raised in a community group, educated in school groups, we participate in social groups, and we work in employment groups. You know, short of living the life of a hermit, you are constantly participating in a group whether you are aware of it or not. And just as we engage in various relationships within the primary and secondary groups that we're in, those groups themselves relate with one another to form the very building blocks of our communities. Family groups, school groups, and community groups combined with church groups, civic groups, and work groups to form the very heart of our community. Just as a healthy heart is a necessity of life, healthy groups are necessary.